Hello everyone, I'm Ronan, and I am super excited for Baldur's Gate 3. It is right around the corner, and my god, all the new information we're getting is just blowing me away. This video we're going to be talking about some of the top tier multi-class options for new players with little investment. I'm sure if you're a D&D veteran or someone that's played the early access, you know all about multi-classing, but if you're new, you may be a little timid on how it works and exactly what combos work really well. Well, that's what today's video is going to be about, to help explain that. First off, what is multiclassing? Multiclassing is when you take levels in another class to gain benefits from them, but you lose benefits from your main class. In Baldur's Gate 3, the max level is level 12. So say you're a paladin and you go up to level 5, because at level 5 they gain the ability to attack twice when they use the attack action. Well, if you go to put points in another class, like a warlock for example, you can no longer get max levels in paladin, so anything that would normally be learned at a higher level, because you put points into warlock, you won't be able to learn. That being said, multiclassing is really powerful, and sometimes the benefits of multiclassing outweighs losing the benefits of staying as a pure class. Note, before we continue, this video doesn't have any particular footage that's going to be useful. It's more so a video to listen to, so feel free to listen and gain the information, or continue to watch and gain the information. Thank you. Before we continue with my personal favorite class combos and ones that require very little investment, I did want to talk about some changes from D&D into Baldur's Gate 3. In D&D, normally you need an ability score high enough in order to multiclass. What that means, for example, is say you're a fighter and you wanted to also be a wizard. Well, if your intelligence modifier wasn't high enough, or intelligence score, you would not be able to actually go into the wizard class. Say your intelligence was only 10. I believe wizards require 13 in D&D, so you would not be able to multiclass. Well, they got rid of that in Baldur's Gate 3. In Baldur's Gate 3, you can multiclass without any ability score requirements, which makes some really unique class combos in Baldur's Gate 3 that you would not normally be able to do in regular D&D tabletop. I don't have this list of classes in any particular order except the first one I'm talking about now. I'm letting you know, if you're new to D&D, pick the fighter as a multiclass. With only 2 levels of investment, they will make any class you play, whether it's a wizard shooting, crazy strong magic from afar, whether you're a ranger shooting with your bow, a rogue going for backstabs, a warrior, paladin, it doesn't matter. The fighter with 2 levels in fighter is going to make those classes substantially better, and that is because of the ability called Action Surge. Action Surge is incredibly strong. What this allows you to do is push yourself beyond your limits, and you gain an additional action. That is really, really strong. What's even better is this is recharged anytime you do a short or a long rest. And in Baldur's Gate 3, you can do a short rest twice a day just by clicking a button. So you can have this up pretty often. Action Surge, let me just put this in perspective. Say you are a spellcaster. For example, say you're a warlock and you're using Eldritch Blast. Well, you beat up the enemy, but maybe you didn't do quite enough damage to kill it. You use your Action Surge ability, bam, you have another turn, so you can just use another spell and kill the enemy. And that's universally great for pretty much any spellcaster. Say you are a paladin, for example. And paladins, like most martial classes, gain an extra attack at level 5. So say you are a level 5 paladin and you have 2 points into fighter as well for Action Surge. Maybe you're fighting a really tough boss. You go in, you attack, you divine smite, do big damage, you attack again because you gain the extra attack, and then you use Action Surge. Well, guess what? When you attack, if you go to attack a 3rd time, because of the extra attack you get for being a paladin at level 5, you get 4 attacks in 1 turn. That is some big time damage. But another aspect of that as well is, say you attack a creature and you're low in HP. You just wanted to get him a little bit lower. You attack, you don't kill it, or maybe you do, but you know you're going to get attacked by another monster on your next turn, you can use Action Surge and then maybe heal yourself. And this works for pretty much anyone that can also use a healing ability. Action Surge is amazing, and it doesn't need to be used just for attacks in general. Say you need to get away, so you're a class that doesn't really have great movement, so you go to run, you do everything you can to get away, but you're not quite far enough. Action Surge, bam, you now have another action, so you could use that action to move again if you really wanted to reposition if that's what you needed to do. And it's only 2 levels. It's so good, and I'm telling you, to anyone that's new to D&D or new to Baldur's Gate, Action Surge is the way to go. If you're new. I mean, it's good for pretty much anyone, but it's incredibly useful for new people because it's easy to use. That being said, though, specifically if you are a more so melee oriented class, the fighter has some additional things for the same investment that are really great. So at level 1, you get to pick a passive fighting style for the fighter at level 1. Other classes gain this as well. The paladin gains it as well, but you have to be a higher level. But the fighter, for example, you could just, for 1 point in the fighter, say you're a class that's using a giant two-handed weapon. Well, at level 1 fighter, you could pick the fighting style for great weapon fighting, which allows you to roll a 1 or 2 on damage die for an attack with a two-handed melee weapon and re-roll it so you don't whiff your damage. I mean, if you're using a giant two-hander and you only roll 2 damage, that's really bad. So this allows you to roll the dice again to possibly get a better damage score, which most likely you will. But if you put 1 more point of investment into the fighter, you can choose one of its subclasses: the Battlemaster, the Eldritch Knight, and the Champion. And my personal favorite is the Champion, because the Champion gives you better critical hits. And this is super useful if you also pair this with the Half-Orc because of their racial savage attacks for even more crit damage. For example, if you roll a crit in D&D, normally you would have to roll a d20, which is a 5% chance. That's not that great, but it is possible. Now, just by being a Champion subclass, anytime you roll a 19 or a 20, you can crit. I know it's only 1 point difference, but it goes up to 10%. It gives you a base 10% chance to get a crit, which is really strong. But you also gain the ability Second Wind, which gets better as you gain more levels in the fighter class. But just for gaining it, just for the few points of investment, it's really nice because Second Wind allows you to restore HP. It's literally what it says. You have a limited well of stamina, and you basically use it, and as a bonus action, you can regain your HP equal to 1d10. So no matter what, you're going to gain at least 1d10 of HP. So you roll the dice, maximum 10, plus your fighting level. So if you're that melee fighter, like I just mentioned, and you had 3 points, well, bare minimum, you're going to gain at least 4 HP with a maximum of 13. And of course, this is better the more you level up the fighter class. So that's why I think the fighter is really great. They're really great for melee. They're great for range as well, because you can even choose archery as a fighting style, which gives you +2 to your attack rolls, which means you have an additional 2 for a chance to hit. And not to mention the Action Surge that I mentioned earlier, which is just universally great for literally any class. Okay, so now we're just going to talk about some of my personal favorite combos that I cannot wait to try out in Baldur's Gate 3. For example, Paladins, they use Charisma as their spellcasting modifier. Well, so do Sorcerers, so do Bards, and so do Warlocks. And you know what's really great about this game is you can be an Oathbreaker Paladin. It's just saying, for anyone that likes to roleplay, maybe you lost your faith and now you make a pact with a demon. So now you have a Warlock subclass with your Paladin. Warlocks at level 3 get Pact of the Blade, which allows you to make a pact of a weapon and it will now, that weapon will use its attack and damage rolls using your charisma modifier. That's pretty great because that allows you to not only take points from strength or dex that you would normally have and put it in the constitution, for example, for extra HP, but you can allocate it any way you want. Maybe you put it into wisdom for a higher wisdom saving modifier and things like that. It's really great because it allows you to save points that normally you would need to split to do extra damage. Well, now your attack rolls are going to be from charisma. Your spell casting is from charisma, so your spells will also use the same score. And because charisma is great for interacting with NPCs in the game, you'll have more dialogue options for persuasion, intimidation, and things like that, which also is really great because this game, I mean, it's a role-playing game, so it's not all about doing damage. So that's one I'm super excited to try. I'm not sure how far into Warlock I'm going to dive into, but that's just going to be a base of a build for that I'm going to make, and once I actually dive into it, I'll have a more detailed build video for that. That being said, though, you know how I mentioned how Fighter is universally great for, you know, pretty much any class you want to roll? Well, if you are a Warlock and you do Pact of the Blade and you choose a weapon, well, if you put 2 points into Fighter, you're going to gain the ability to choose a fighting style and action surge. So say you're a Warlock that, you know, you just want to stab people. You like using spells, but you want to go in there and stab. Well, you gain the benefit of being a melee fighter, not the armor class, but at least the damage capabilities and spell capabilities all from the same modifier. It's really great. So I did want to add that in there too. Some other great combinations that have low investment are going to be some melee oriented ones. For example, say you're a druid and you like going into bear form a lot because you're just like, I'm a tanky bear, I'm gonna maul people to death. Well, put a couple points in a barbarian, get rage. That way when you rage, you get damage resistance and extra damage. Like it's gonna be great. That's another easy combo you can do. Specifically though, with the barbarian subclasses, if you really wanted to dive into the more druidic side of things, if you are a druid doing that, you can gain bestial heart, which allows you to choose between 5 different options like animals when you rage. And speaking of bear, so say you chose bear heart, you gain the ability Unrelenting Force, which has resistance to all damage except psychic damage, and you gain that at level 3. So you could literally turn into any animal that you want as a druid, but because you chose the bear heart from the level 3 subclass wild heart with the barbarian, you gain resistances to pretty much every damage type in the game. And of course, there's different options to choose. There's Eagle Heart, there's Elk, Tiger, and Wolf. Wolf is really great because you gain the ability to howl at your teammates, which allows them to have advantage on melee attack rolls to all enemies within 2 meters of you. So if you're fighting a boss and you guys know, like, hey, let's go gang up on this boss and like knock him out, that's a great option as well. I just personally like the bear heart druid idea because I think it's fun being a bear and raging with even more bear power. Another really great combo as well is going to be known as the Sorlock, a sorcerer warlock. You would want 3 points in the sorcerer because you want to gain the meta magic quicken spell, which allows any spell that would normally take an action be a bonus action instead. That's pretty strong because as a warlock, you can use a spell like Eldritch Blast as a bonus spell and then use another one as your actual action. If you happen to actually put a couple points in the fighter, you could use Action Surge and do that again. Or, which is really great too, if you put a couple points into Rogue, for example Thief, they gain additional bonus actions as well, which means you can gain even more spell damage. But multi-classing into 3 different things is a little more challenging for new people. So I would say if you want to go the spellcaster route, just doing Sorlock in general, going 3 points in a sorcerer and the rest warlock forces crazy good damage, is a really good class combo. The last class combo I'm going to talk about that I personally want to try is going to be the Way of the Shadow Monk in combination with other stealth classes like Gloomstalker Ranger or Assassination Rogue. The Gloomstalker Monk, explained by Larian Studios, was basically a ninja, which I think is really cool. Combine that with like the Assassination Rogue to, just stab someone in the back, sounds really cool. And at level 6, you can shadow step with the monk, so you can go from one shadow into the shadow, like you become one of the shadow and then go to another shadow within 60 meters and teleport there. I think that's really cool. It can be really great for exploration, but in combat, it's gonna be like the different things you can do with that is just gonna be insane. So I'm excited to try that out, but monks weren't in early access for me to actually try. This video was pretty long, so hopefully if you made it to the end, you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. This is a newer YouTube channel, and I will be uploading plenty more content for Baldur's Gate 3. But for now, this is the end of the video. If there's anything else you want me to cover or dive deeper into when it comes to classes, multi-classing, and things like that, please comment down below. This was meant just to be a kind of like an intro video for people that are more so new to D&D and stuff like that. So hopefully you did enjoy. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.